Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Tuesday, October 8th, 2019. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Trump blocks Gordon Sondland, the Ukrainian message boy, from testifying in Congress. It is on, ladies and gentlemen. New polls now show a majority of Americans, 58%, now support the impeachment inquiry. Meanwhile, Supreme Court of the United States starts its new term with possible assaults on women's sovereignty over their own body, attacks on DACA recipients, and on the rights of LGBTQ folks. Meanwhile, Joshua Brown, key witness in the Amber Geyer conviction killing Botham Jean, shot in the mouth in Dallas following his testimony. New NAFTA may pass in the wake of impeachment. Embedded in it, protections for drug makers, content makers that have nothing to do with trade. Meanwhile, China sneezes and the NBA is punishing the GM of the Houston Rockets for tweeting in favor of Hong Kong protesters. 40 AGs to probe Facebook for antitrust violations. And a judge says Betsy DeVos is on the brink of contempt for screwed over students of for-profit university. And lastly, how serious a problem is the Trump worship in the military? Hopefully we'll never know. All this and more on today's program this very Tuesday, October 8th. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We will be doing a breakdown of the news today, as things are quite busy. Everyone is here. Michael is out because yesterday was Monday, and presumably he'll be back this evening for his show. Couple of house cleaning things to do. Tomorrow and the next day, Michael will be doing the fun half. I will be doing the first half interview. We've got a great interview tomorrow with Brad Miller, who is the former congressman from North Carolina. And he wrote a piece in the American Progress on the 40-year war that Bill Barr, the Attorney General, has been waging over congressional oversight. And we get into how does this thing get resolved? And why was this not a problem 20 some odd years ago? And this is going to be a problem. We're going to get into impeachment in just a second. But before I forget, couple of things. One, this tweet went out. I don't know. We haven't been able to confirm this, but people should check it out. GM has hired scabs from Black Horse to do UAW members' work. There's a new picket line. I think this is in Detroit, right? In Langhorne, up in Langhorne. I guess Langhorne, Michigan. 2201 Cabot Boulevard West.
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Oh, so Pennsylvania? Okay, sorry. Langhorne, Pennsylvania, 2201 Cabot Boulevard West. If you're in Langhorne, Put the show on your phone. Go down there. Help out those GM workers. This thing is going to go. This thing has gone long, and it's going to go longer. I have a feeling. Just I guess yesterday, there was word that and it's very hard to know when you hear these pronouncements. Sometimes management will try and scare people, but this thing could go on for a while. Also, I want to encourage you to go and sign up for our, what do you like us on Instagram? Follow us on Instagram. I'm still getting down the lingo of this whole internet, social media stuff. Follow us on Instagram. It is majorityreport.fm. Don't know why we did that. I don't know why we did that.
It was Majority FM, and then you changed it.
Why didn't we just do Majority Report? Was that already taken?
I'm not sure.
majorityreport.fm. Maybe we can change it again, but majorityreport.fm. Head over there. Wonderful picture of the morning meme is there from, I guess it was, who did that? Matt McCready. And it is a picture of Steven Crowder.
Old Cold Feet?
Yeah, Cold Feet Crowder and me in as a butterfly. So I don't know. You can check that out. But here's the deal. When we get to 10,000 followers, and we're only about 1,400 away, we're doing the merch. That's it. Boom. I don't care what you say. I know there's been people who are like, please don't do any merch. And they've been saying that for 9 years, but forget it. We're going to do merch if we get to 10,000 Instagram followers. So do what you got to. Also, the AM Quickie. Go sign up for it right now. You can subscribe to it at amquickie.com. And you can subscribe to it on Stitcher. You can do it on Spotify. You can do it on iTunes. You can do it on your Alexa, wherever. AM Quickie, 5 minutes every morning. We will tell you the news, at least the headlines that you're going to need to know going into the day so you're not surprised by anything because, I know you don't like being surprised. And that's that. All right, let's get into this first. About a week ago, the Gavin Newsom, the California governor, signed the Fair Pay Bill, which is going to allow college athletes, and I'm not sure exactly what the specific parameters are, but it will allow college athletes to get endorsement pay, to profit from endorsements, and I don't know if it requires anything else. But the NCAA is saying that the law is unconstitutional. I'm not exactly sure why that would be the case, but maybe they're talking about their own constitution. But the bill has been signed, and here's a moment on Fox News Live with what's the woman's name? Sandra Smith and Bill Hammond here with Charles Payne. And Charles Payne, this is fascinating because Charles Payne is really, really emotionally invested in this issue, which is great. I'm glad he is. The funny thing is what he attributes it to is not exactly Charles Payne, who has a show on Fox Business, may not be 100% clear on what a capitalist is.
Story. This was an interesting perspective from that coach there.
Yeah, and ironically, I think he says, though, that he does support the athletes even being paid. He thinks the governor shouldn't be involved. I don't know about this staying in your lane. That's a red flag for me when anyone tells somebody else to stay in their lane. I'm not sure if he thinks the governor shouldn't be looking out for everyone who lives in his state, including the homeless, including the underprivileged, and including kids who are going to college there. So I don't know that that's outside the lane.
His point is, why are you focusing here when we've got a serious homelessness problem?
I think he could do more than one thing, right? I think he can deal with homelessness and say, by the way, these kids who are at schools where the coach is making $5 million a year from wearing, Nike shoes. Maybe they should get paid. A lot of them don't even eat.
So now we know where you stand.
Yeah, well, I'm a capitalist, and I believe when I hear people defend the status quo that I think is unfair. Whether, the people who came out and said they hated President Trump's trade tariffs battles with China, although China's ripping us off, it's not the right way to go. They hate this idea.
Pause it for 1 second. I just can't let that slide by. You can be a capitalist and want people to get paid who are working for you, but your being a capitalist does not require you to demand fair wages. In fact, one could make the absolute argument, the absolute opposite argument, that in fact, it is the capitalist ethos that says, if we can get these folks to play for us for free and we can make money off of them, that's capitalism. That is capitalism.
It's a structural imperative.
It is. You need that dynamic. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, the capitalist storms into the room and says, I'm shocked to find that exploitation of labor is occurring in here.
Right, exactly. Now, you don't necessarily have to have slave labor to be a capitalist, but you need a delta between what you make off them and what they're making. That is capitalism. So to say that you're a capitalist and that's why you want them to get fair pay makes absolutely no sense. You can be a capitalist. You can say, I happen to be a capitalist who wants these players to get paid at least somewhat what they're worth. Not totally what they're worth, but somewhat. But you cannot say the reason why I want them to be paid is because I'm a capitalist. Now, maybe Charles Payne doesn't know exactly what a capitalist is.
Defend the status quo that I think is unfair. Whether, the people who came out and said they hated President Trump's trade tariffs battles with China, although China's ripping us off, it's not the right way to go. They hate this idea, although I do think players should get paid. It reminds me of the abolitionist movement in this country. I've studied it. I continue to study it. And so many quote unquote good people say, yeah, I'm against slavery, but now is not the time to fight it. And if we...
Why is a full ride not enough, Charles?
It's not enough because if I
pause it for a second. Can I also just comment on Bill Hammond? There's something very odd about his behavior, and I can't quite put my finger on it. But he has that thing. Let's just when you've got to do this thing where it's like your expressions just listening are so studied that you need to freeze after you say something like that. It suggests to me something's up. I'm a little bit concerned about Mr. Hammond.
Why is a full ride not enough, Charles?
It's not enough because if I bring in $10 million and you give me $100,000 in value for it, it's unfair.
I'm 18. I'm getting a full ride to a great American university that's given me another chance.
You can't make $5 million off of me and tell me, in return, I'm going to give you a $50,000 education. It's not fair. It's just not fair. You're ripping these people off. They are being used and abused. Okay, give them something because you are making millions off of them.
So what's the price?
That's usury.
What do you pay them?
Pay them something more than zero. Pay them something more than zero. You are making millions off of them, millions. It's an unbalanced relationship. Nobody in this building would work for less than they thought they were worth.
When I was 18 years old, if you came to me with a full ride for a scholarship, I'd be
but if you could dunk the ball from the half-court line and your coach made $5 million a year because you could do that.
Then I'd go to the NBA and I'd make even more money than you're talking about.
The bottom line is I think people should get paid for what they're worth.
You made your...
There you go. There's nothing like this is where I feel like what I should do is just quit this job and spend my entire time to develop a mechanism that can tell me what those Fox hosts are thinking as they keep their mouths quiet and watch something like that. Because they're going like, this is getting uncomfortable. He seems really passionate about making sure these people get paid. Weird. Super weird. And Hammond is just trying to, maintain. But there it is. Good. I mean, I wish that someone like Charles Payne had the ability. Maybe he does. And maybe this is one of those inciting events. Like Shep Smith. Shep Smith, basically the inciting event was Katrina. He was on a bridge in Katrina. I remember this. Bill O'Reilly was saying like, they don't appreciate what's going on there. And Shep's just like, you don't get what's happening here. You don't understand it. And I think that's basically when Shep Smith decided like, I can't do this anymore. Maybe there'll be a moment where Payne realizes, like, maybe I'm not so much of a capitalist, or maybe like there's something wrong with capitalism because it was structured under specifically a capitalistic principle. And it will be structured under a capitalistic principle when these guys get chicken feed for what they're doing. And the idea that Bell Hammer thinks that these guys, a small percentage of them will go into the NBA, and the rest of them will have bodies that have been beat up by playing college sports. Some instances, debilitating injuries for the rest of their lives. They will have had their studies largely, not all college athletes, but their studies largely ignored because their job is to go and play on that team. And so it is so overdue. It's unbelievable. Like this pretending that they're anything but professional athletes.
Yeah, it's a similar thing with grad students who teach classes, right?
Grad students that teach classes, and frankly, adjuncts too, for that matter. I mean, there's a whole series of these questions, and I think, frankly, for grad students and adjuncts, it's gotten worse. It's been this bad for athletes, forever.
And each time they renew a TV contract, it just looks worse and worse.
It looks worse and worse.
Well, welcome to the left, Comrade Payne.
There you go. Who knows? He could be sitting right next to us.
He seems like he's got a critique of neoliberalism.
Let's throw to our economics report. Folks, would you rather be busy or be productive? Here's how you can start making your work take less work and find the right software for you at Capterra.com/majority. Capterra is the leading free online resource to help you to find the best software solution for your business. There's over 1 million reviews of products from real software users. You can discover everything you need to make an informed decision. You can look at 700 specific categories of software. 700 specific categories with 1 million different options. Doesn't matter. Everything from project management to email marketing to yoga studio management software. No matter what kind of software your business needs, Capterra makes it easy to discover the right solution fast. Join the millions of people who use Capterra each month to find the right tools for their business. Not only that, I bet for a lot of people, you go and you look under the category of what you do, you will find that there's actually software. I bet you there's a lot of people who do not realize there is specific software for their business. I've said this before. I've done it many times. I look through here just to find out like what people do for livings. Like in other, this is sort of like my own personal, you go to those life coaches and they tell you what job that you're suited for. I've been going through this thing just to look at different ideas. Mac CRM software. I don't know what that means. Machine learning software. That sounds fascinating. Maid service software. I guess if you have a maid business, mailroom management software, maintenance management software, manufacturing software, manufacturing execution software. I don't know what the difference between those two are, but somebody must. Marine software, market research software, marketing analysis software. That actually might be something for us to use. We got the AM Quickie on a bunch of different data servers. And so, we combine them all. I don't know. We got to check that out. Marketing attribution software, marketing automation software, marketing planning software, marketplace software, martial arts software, massage therapy software, you get the idea. I'm not even through the M's yet. Visit Capterra.com/majority for free today to find the tools to make an informed software decision for your business. Capterra.com/majority. It's free, folks. It's free. It aggregates all the reviews for all of these different categories of software. Capterra, Capterra.com/majority. Capterra software selection simplified. All right, let's get into this. This is a big deal. On Friday, and if you did not hear this, I don't usually pimp our own content. But what was the name of the video that we did? We clipped it. It was the first 20 minutes of Friday's show. And I was going through the release that came from, in the wake of the testimony from Kurt Volker. Kurt Volker was the special envoy to Ukraine, unpaid position. One of those John McCainites. And via Volker, the committee, the Intel committee, got a little trove of text messages, all that included Volker, I guess. So he must have been CC'd on these, even ones that didn't necessarily involve him, right? And they are between him, the former ambassador to Ukraine, Bill Taylor, and the U.S. ambassador to EU, also a hotelier, friend of Donald Trump's, Gordon Sondland. And they basically are talking about, and there's one or two also, I think, with Andrei Yermak, who is a top advisor to President Zelensky. This is all around the Ukraine call and basically the dynamic of Donald Trump holding back unilaterally money that was earmarked and appropriated by Congress statutorily for Ukraine. He was holding it back, lying as to the reason as to why he was holding it back to the Congress and who was holding it back to the Congress. And then getting on the phone with the Ukrainian president and saying, hey, look, we need to have some reciprocity here. You know, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. I want information on, what happened in 2016, if you know what I mean. And also Hunter Biden, can you deliver us something? You should investigate it, if you know what I mean. Because it's dirty, so dirty. And these exchanges between Bill Taylor, Gordon Sondland, and Kurt Volker basically outline, they show without a doubt that the president was holding it back because he wanted this stuff, the deliverables. That's literally the word that they used. Gordon Sondland said on August 9th, 2019 at 5:47 p.m., in fact, 34 seconds past that 5:47, he said, I think POTUS really wants the deliverable. And it goes on and on. And to the point where Bill Taylor, and this is going to be important, says, as I said on the phone, this is on September 9th, 2019, to Gordon Sondland, as I said on the phone, I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign. So Gordon Sondland was scheduled to show up and testify to the House Intelligence Committee behind closed doors today. And that's not going to happen. Here's Adam Schiff, chairman of the Intelligence Committee, to tell you why.
The failure to produce this witness, the failure to produce these documents, we consider yet additional strong evidence of obstruction of the constitutional functions of Congress, a co-equal branch of government. There are four issues that we are looking at least four issues that we are looking at, all that go to the heart of our national security. And by preventing us from hearing from this witness and obtaining these documents, the President and Secretary of State are taking actions that prevent us from getting the facts needed to protect the nation's security. We are looking into whether the President solicited foreign help in a U.S. presidential election again. We are looking into the issue of whether a meeting that Ukraine desperately sought with the president at the White House was being conditioned on the willingness of Ukraine to investigate this bogus conspiracy theory about 2016 and investigate the Bidens. We're looking at whether Ukraine was given reason to believe that military assistance it desperately needed to fight off the Russians was being withheld until it made commitments to do these political investigations for the president. And we are looking into the question of whether there has been an effort by the president, the Secretary of State, and others to cover up this misconduct. Ambassador Sondland is an important witness on each of these subjects, but he is not the only important witness. And we will consider this act today, and we've had members fly in from around the country to hear the ambassador's testimony, as well as the withholding of the ambassador's documents, as well as efforts that may be made to discourage or having the effect of discouraging other State Department witnesses from coming forward and testifying, as they have agreed to be further acts of obstruction of a co-equal branch of government.
This will all be in the articles of impeachment. And make no mistake about it. There's going to be articles of impeachment. They're going to be voted upon. They could be voted upon right now based upon just the information I have here in this document that just includes a very limited set of text messages. Like I say, only the text messages I think that Kurt Volker had access to. But there are other text messages, says Adam Schiff.
Not only is the Congress being deprived of his testimony, the American people being deprived of his testimony today, but we are also aware that the ambassador has text messages or emails on a personal device, which have been provided to the State Department, although we have requested those from the ambassador, and the State Department is withholding those messages as well. Those messages are also deeply relevant to this investigation and the impeachment inquiry. And I want to just explain for the public the significance of this witness and the significance of the decision, evidently by the Secretary of State and President or both, to withhold this key witness's testimony today.
So the White House has made the calculation that it is better for them to not have Sondland go and testify and give up the entire game. Because look, they have these text messages. And you'll recall, Bill Taylor says, as I said on the phone last night, I think it's insane, crazy to withhold security assistance for information for a political campaign. Bill Taylor is going to testify. Bill Taylor does not sound like a guy who wants to protect the Trump administration. The reason why he said that in text, that I wanted to do this, that I said that on the phone last night, is the same reason why everyone who recounts what they said on the phone, this is not a soap opera. This is not bad soap opera writing. It is to make it clear that I understand that this is going to be subpoenaed at one point. Now, I want to make it clear where I stand. And that's why Sondland then responded, even though he had said a month earlier, the POTUS wants the deliverables. There has never been a quid quo pro. I have no idea what you're talking about. Who dis? New phone. I have no idea who you are. Well, Bill Taylor's going to have a different story to tell. But the administration decides we don't put Sondland in there. Better that we will have an indictment for obstruction, or I should say an article of impeachment for obstruction, than the whole kit and caboodle, because they know they're in trouble on this. But the fact of the matter is, there is more readouts from other phone calls in that highly secure safe. And the Democrats should just continue on this path. And anybody who told you 2 months ago that this was going to be damaging for Democrats if they approach impeachment. You should reassess what they know about politics and whether they can, with a clear eye, see what is clearly an impeachable offense. I will remind you, impeachment is a political process. It is not a criminal process. It is a political process. We already know, according to the Office of Legal Counsel, this specific Office of Legal Counsel in the Department of Justice, that a sitting president cannot be criminally indicted because there is already a mechanism in which to deal with him. It is a political mechanism, and it is called impeachment. The standards of impeachment are not the same as a criminal trial. So now we have, and tomorrow I'm going to be talking to Brad Miller on the program and about the dilemma that Democrats have. How do you compel this testimony? How do you compel this testimony? There are two ways. And apparently Adam Schiff, anyways, expressed the desire to pursue both of them. One is you just go ahead with impeachment. There's three ways. One is you just go ahead with impeachment. You impeach them. And you pursue to compel them in a criminal court to testify. Sondland, he's not the president. He can be criminally indicted. And if a court orders him to talk and he's in contempt of court, then he can go to jail. And that has a way of focusing the brain, particularly when you're a major hotelier and they're used to having nice meals at the EU as an ambassador that has been appointed because you've given Donald Trump so much money.
I mean, jail is a hotel of sorts.
It can be. That's the way you should think about it. Manafort seems fine. And then this, you'll recall that the Squad was the first crew of freshman Democrats to come out for impeachment in the strongest fashion. And they pursued it all the way until essentially the frontline Democrats came back from recess in August and said to Nancy Pelosi, my constituents want me to impeach him. And then all of a sudden, the heroes of impeachment became 7 national security Democrats who were not members of the Squad. Nevertheless, they did another op-ed, these 7 national security Democrats, basically writing, if true, and I don't know how much more evidence you need than he withheld these funds. They lied to Congress as to why who withheld them. He has no possible reason to withhold them. And the only evidence of what it was is that not even half-assed transcript that we have and these corroborating texts. We don't need anything else. I'm all in favor of getting more of it, but we don't need it. But if true, Trump's actions are impeachable. But this is even more important. They write in the third or fourth graph, if these allegations are true, we believe these actions represent an impeachable offense. We do not arrive at this conclusion lightly, and we call on our colleagues in Congress to consider the use of all congressional authorities available to us, including the power of inherent contempt and impeachment hearings to address these new allegations, find the truth, and protect our national security. Inherent contempt is the ability of Congress to imprison and levy fines. And we are going to head into territory. I mean, I think they've done this, but not in the 20th century. Not in the 21st century either, of course, but not in the 20th century. And we're going to see if they're going to take a guy like Sondland and say, like, we'd like to introduce you to the dungeon that lives below Congress.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Damn.
A guy like Sondland, I don't think, you could slap $2,000 a day on him, and I think he'd be like, I can do it. I can handle that, and Trump will slide me some cash.
Some of those guys pay good money to go to the dungeon.
That's true. But this would be one where they're all alone, and they just get gruel.
You're not the sexy kind.
So we're going to be following this. It's important. And I will also tell you this. So, there are two arguments, right? I mean, people call it the moral thing. I don't think it's, morality, forget about it. It is simply accountability as to ethics in government. And the president has a certain narrow set of parameters. I mean, they're pretty wide. You can get away with a lot of stuff if you're president. And I understand that accountability has not always worked, but this is cumulative. This is cumulative. And look, there's a lot of things in life where you're like, there's a 15% chance that this could happen. I'm going to go for it. I mean, why do I support Bernie Sanders? Whether you think that Bernie Sanders is like marginally more progressive than Elizabeth Warren or hugely more progressive, it doesn't matter. Or there's some people who think that they're the same. Whatever. From my perspective, I think he's more progressive than Elizabeth Warren. I don't think either one of them are going to be able to implement the plans as they have presented them. But if there's a 10% chance that they can, I'm going to go with the one who's going to push it further. Just on that 10%. And that's the case with this accountability. You hold Donald Trump to account. That doesn't mean that you're going to be able to hold every president to account coming in the future. You're not going to be able to hold the elite broadly to account. You're not going to be able to hold bankers to account when they rip people off with foreclosures or put down an edict that says 5,000 of their employees end up just coincidentally putting people into fake accounts, et cetera, et cetera. Whether it's cops who are profiling, you need to attempt to try to hold people to account. Because if you completely, in light of obvious ethics breaking, law breaking, I think there's multiple counts of actual law breaking here, not just elections violations, but extortion. Using government, the power of government to extort for own personal gain. I don't know what more basic a premise that you don't want your politicians to do. And that's the argument from like the civic argument, I guess you would say. I don't like to use the word moral. But the political argument is becoming quite clear. And I think it was quite obvious, frankly, before this. But we now have impeachment in just a matter of days gone up in by support for the inquiry has risen since July in a ABC Washington Post poll, has risen by 25 points amongst Democrats, 21 points amongst Republicans.
Traitors.
And 20 points amongst Republicans. It is now traitors. More than 8 in 10 Democrats endorse the inquiry, as well as 8 in 10 want to get Trump removed from office. Republicans, 3 in 10 now. 3 in 10, 70%. He's got an 85% approval rating amongst Republicans. He did over the summer. So you've moved the needle slightly. That is, like I say, a 20-point bump amongst Republicans.
Wow.
So 3 in 10 support the inquiry. 1/5 say they favor of a, so 2 in 10 favor a vote recommending his removal. And among the critical voting bloc of independents, support for the impeachment inquiry hits 57%. 49% of independents saying the House should vote to remove him from office. So they want the impeachment inquiry. And we're almost at a majority now where they want him to vote, yes, impeach. There's a story out of the Times today. They love going back and talking to Trump voters. Well, this time they went back to Erie County in western Pennsylvania, which in 2012 to Trump, 17-point swing. Now, I would imagine, without knowing Erie County, that you also have a lot of changing demographics there. But even still, 17 points is probably more than one would imagine. And at the very least, they found one guy, Mark Graham, a real estate appraiser, 69, who in mid-September, this is a guy who voted for Obama, called the president's office a joke in September, but he was unwilling to commit to voting Democratic in 2020 as of the September Democratic debate. And he says, as of yesterday, things have changed in the last couple of weeks. More stupidity has come out. Said this last week. He hopes Democrats nominate Joe Biden, but he's not particular. I'd vote for the Democratic nominee no matter who it is at this point. And he says if Mr. Trump gets another 4 years where he's a lame duck, it's going to be like adding gasoline to the fire. So, what was that tally in Pennsylvania? Clinton lost by 40,000. Well, now all they need to do is get another 39,998 people. You just switched 2 votes, essentially. Not one for Trump. Now it's for the Democrat. And the political value of this is not just in terms of the presidential election. The political value is that every single election across the country, that Republican incumbent is going to be forced to make a vote. And if they vote to impeach Donald Trump, the Republicans in their party are going to be extremely angry at them. If they vote to protect Donald Trump, all the normal people are going to be angry with them. And so, and to the extent that this is good for Democrats, it's also good for progressives. It's good for DSA candidates running. Because if they have a better shot of getting in office, they have a better shot of getting into office. If a Republican is standing in their way, they have a better shot of getting into office. And if they can offer the same sort of like partisan perspective on this, but then offer material benefits for people, all the better. This is a good thing. And for those people who are like, well, it's going to stand in the way of legislation being passed. I would say to you, with all due respect, take the needle out of your arm. That's all I would say. Because nothing's getting passed that would have gotten passed in the absence of, here's just a partial list of what the House Democrats have passed that is languishing in the Senate. Something like 250 bills. For the People Act, the Equality Act, the American Dream and Promise Act, the Paycheck Fairness Act, the Bipartisan Background Checks Act, Enhanced Background Checks Act, Climate Action Now Act, Raise the Wage Act, Federal Civilian Work. I don't know if these bills are any good. Some of them I think are decent. Some of them are half-assed. But it doesn't matter because nothing's getting through the Republican Senate. There's only one way you're going to get something through the Senate. That is to get no Republican senators in Colorado, no Republican senators in Maine, no Republican senators in Arizona, maybe North Carolina, maybe Georgia. That's what it's going to take, bottom line. So anybody who tells you that it's bad politically is foolish. Anybody who tells you it's bad in terms of civics is foolish. In my estimation, I may be wrong.
Do you think it's going to change the minds of Republican voters, or do you think it's more a matter of driving turnout among Democrats?
I think it's more a matter of driving turnout among Democrats. I mean, I think it's quite possible that some Republicans' minds will be changed.
It'll depress turnout, I think.
But it's hard for me to imagine it won't depress turnout. I mean, if you have 3 in 10 who think that he should be impeached, and 2 in 10 who think he should be voted out of office, when over the summer he had over 80, close to 90% approval. At the very least, those people won't show up. And then when they don't show up, not only do they not show up to vote for Donald Trump, they don't show up and they don't vote for Susan Collins. They don't show up and vote for the Republican candidate.
Yeah, every non-vote counts.
Every non-vote counts. And that is the name of this game in this era.
And the way this is shifting, you've brought this up with your reaction shot theory, but it really makes a lot of sense to me that, before Pelosi came out with this, people would hear about impeachment and then look to like what the authorities are saying, basically.
Of course.
And, she's not even for it. Whether you're even a Republican or a Democrat, you say, well, Pelosi's not for it. There must be good reasons. I'm just going to move on with my day.
What person who only casually follows politics is going to say, I'm more equipped to tell you that the president should be impeached than the leader of the Democrats? What rational person would say that if they just sort of casually look at politics, dip in, dip out? Who would say that? I mean, this is just, I would love if we lived in a world where even 40% of the population was engaged in politics. 30% of the population was really engaged in politics. Of course I would love it. Our audience would be 3-4 times the size. Just by law of averages. But the fact of the matter is it's not. And that cuts both ways. Because that's why you only need 3 million comments when you have a Democratic president to completely reverse things like, I can't even remember the name of it now. Net neutrality. That's why you don't really need a tremendous amount of people for any social movement. What you need is a critical mass, but that critical mass does not have to be 51%. It can be 7% if they're dedicated enough and they're in the right positions. I mean, there's, keep referencing that Wrecked book, but there's a reason why those dumb car makers destroyed their business. It was because they were afraid of what just a handful of workers could do on their supply chain in terms of exercising their power. And that is
Yeah, they should be.
Yeah, well, they should be. But the key is to find leverage points and use them. And that's what impeachment is. It is the lever. It also happens to be, I think, inarguably appropriate for this president. Because if it's not, when would it be appropriate?
Oh, absolutely. I do find it somewhat depressing, though, that the best case scenario here is that they bring up impeachment proceedings, and we know that the Democrats don't have the votes to remove him from office. So he's going to stay in office. The best case scenario is that Trump still gets away with this.
But there'll be another a bite at this apple when he leaves office. And that'll be criminal proceedings, frankly. But
he still will have gotten to be president.
Well,
and stayed president.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And he could win again. He could win a second term.
It's true.
But it's nice to know that that's waiting for him on the other side.
Yeah, and I think you're still, to be impeached is still a form of accountability. You're not removed from office, but it's still a form of accountability. You're impeached.
Witch hunt.
You're impeached for the rest of your days. Bill Clinton, believe me, if Bill Clinton was not impeached, there would be a marginal difference in the way that we perceive this guy. There definitely would be, particularly now. But the fact that he was impeached, despite the fact that most people didn't think he should be, it hampers him in some respects. All right, let's just talk briefly about what's going on with Syria, and then we'll go to the fun half. So apparently in August, and I think this, look, there was an understanding, I think, prior to this as well. But August came to the point where the fighting had hit a stage where the United States basically made a deal with the Kurds. The U.S. needed Kurds to face off against the remnants of ISIL fighters. But they were afraid to leave their defensive positions on the border with Turkey to do so. So the United States said, we got you. We will have a 5-mile wide safe zone along the border with Turkey in Syria. Americans would patrol alongside Turkish forces. The Kurds would dismantle fortifications in those areas that were designed to defend against a possible Turkish incursion. Turkey would also join the American-led air operations against ISIL. There'd still be 1,000 American troops in the region, but it would protect the Kurds in northern Syria and maintain pressure on the Islamic State. Donald Trump announced, apparently nobody knew this was coming, that change of plans, Turkey can go invade and kill all the Kurds. I mean, he didn't say that many words, but that's basically what it was.
It really read like he wrote it himself.
The one that he wrote himself was he was mad because France and Europe wouldn't take any of the ISIS prisoners that the U.S. has. But more importantly, the Kurds have 40,000 ISIS prisoners. 10,000 ISIS prisoners.
Still a lot.
Kurdish, still a lot. And they basically said, guess what? If we're getting attacked by Turkey, we're letting those guys go. And Erdogan needs to do this, apparently, because he lost that election in Istanbul. His peeps didn't win in the Istanbul local election. He's trying to shore up his domestic political support. There's nothing better, folks, to shore up your domestic support than by engaging in a war with someone outside of your country. And the Kurds...
Yeah, particularly a hated minority.
Exactly. Now, why did Donald Trump do this? Nobody seems to know. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any particular logic. It's possible that he feels like if I bring home those 1,000 U.S. troops, I'll get rewarded at the polls.
Oh, I suggested maybe he wants a Trump Tower in Istanbul the other day. He already has a Trump Tower in Istanbul.
Interesting that you bring that up. Here is an interview from December 1st, 2015, between Steve Bannon, doing the podcast for the Breitbart News Daily, and then candidate Donald Trump. You will notice that at this time, Donald Trump actually sounds somewhat coherent. It's odd. It's going to be a little bit jarring for you. This is before he either lost his mind or was in a position to have someone sit down with a piece of paper in front of him and tell him to read it. Here he is with Steve Bannon talking about that very thing.
We started the show with our live reporters in Turkey, London, Paris, Rome, etc., talking about this fracas right now between Putin and Erdogan. The BBC, we've talked about this 10 days ago on Breitbart and our listeners about Turkey making money off of ISIS oil, that one of the revenue streams, major revenue streams, is oil, as you've talked about. Turkey's been the middleman. Putin now, finally, 9 days after it's up on Breitbart, BBC lead story, Putin saying, hey, we got a problem here. Turkey's the middleman and making plenty of cash off ISIS and has skin in the game, keeping ISIS around. Erdogan immediately goes back and says, hey, you can prove it, I'll step down. If your plan in prosecuting this war as commander-in-chief of the United States, if you're elected president, in prosecuting the war, what do you do with Turkey? Is Turkey a reliable partner? I know they're a NATO ally. Are they a reliable partner?
Well, I have a little conflict of interest because I have a major building in Istanbul, and it's a tremendously successful job. It's called Trump Towers, 2 towers instead of 1. Not the usual 1, it's 2. And I've gotten to know Turkey very well, and they're amazing people. They're incredible people. They have a strong leader. The strong leader is now fighting pretty much with Putin. If you look at what's going on, there's a lot of angst and a lot of anguish going on over there. I think Turkey has been a good partner for the United States, but things are getting very complicated because you have ISIS, you have Assad in Syria where they're fighting ISIS, and we're supposed to be fighting, I guess, both according to the Obama administration, and lots of times that doesn't work out too well. How are you going to fight both? And the people that we're fighting for against Assad are rebels that we have no idea who they are. So we have a very complex set of circumstances. And if you look at Turkey, Turkey looks like they're on the side of ISIS, more or less, based on the oil.
Now, I don't know how to explain Donald Trump sounding so coherent at that time and now sounding like I don't feel like he could make a phone call like that if his life depended on it. But that be that as it may, he felt he had a pretty severe conflict of interest back in the day.
It's like even when he announces his conflict of interest, it's like he's promoting them.
Right. But here's the thing. We don't know. We don't know if there was a way for Erdogan to promise via Trump Tower 2, here's $60 million. Here's $100 million. Here's gold ingots I'm just going to drop off next time I'm in town. We'll have them in the back of the Bentley that I get shipped over on some type of cargo plane, or we don't know.
Oh, there's a new tax cut if you have 2 towers. Thank you, President Erdogan.
Exactly.
Maybe he's going to put the next tower in Afrin.
I mean, exactly. You don't know. And we do know that he was willing to hold up $400 million worth of aid, getting phone calls from Ron Johnson. And did we play that yesterday? Did we have that yesterday? We did play it, right? With Chuck Todd, we didn't play it. Oh, let's pull that up. We do know that when he withheld the aid from Ukraine, he had senators calling him. That's why they ultimately released the aid, was because people were calling up going, what's going on? Why? A month ago, we passed a bill to send this money off, and I just found out through the grapevine that you're the one who's holding it up. What's the deal? And I got Sunland telling me that you're holding it up because of something to do with the Bidens? What? Because you think there's some type of like scam that was going on in 2016? The Ukrainians were framing the Russians? For what? If Donald Trump did that for $400 million just to validate the story that he was not guilty of something in 2016, or to get dirt on Joe Biden, what do you think he would do for $200 million of cash? Like, do you think he gives one F for a single person, for a single Kurd?
No, he doesn't even care about his own wife.
Yeah, of course. He doesn't even recognize that he has a child, for God's sakes.
The son that you had with me.
Get out of here, Kurtz.
As this impeachment inquiry goes on, they should be asking for more and more and more. There should be I don't know if they can do it on a rolling basis, but every Tuesday should be voting on a new impeachment indictment. And they should keep going for more and more and more. And I would say that as they start to look at this, and I don't know if you can call a senator to testify, but I'd like to hear Ron Johnson explain this away. Ron Johnson, there was a story that came out 3 to 4 days ago that Ron Johnson, sometime in late August, called the president because he had talked to the guy Sunland, the guy who was supposed to testify today and didn't, the guy who said, I think the president wants the deliverable on text messages to other people who wanted to know if the president was prepared to have a meeting and to release the funds. So Johnson heard from Sunland that the president's holding up the defense funds because he wanted dirt on Biden. And he calls the president. And then Johnson says, but, because Ron Johnson's not a bright guy. He's just not a bright guy. This is what I've heard from people in Wisconsin. He's just not a bright guy. He must have realized, like, oops, I shouldn't have told everybody that in a Politico story.
Ah, geez.
But President Trump denied it. So there's that. But here he is. And Chuck Todd is just getting incredibly frustrated because, well, I don't know. I don't know why Chuck Todd's getting frustrated. maybe he just sort of thinks like, this is, come on, seriously? Or maybe he thinks it's, you know, in his best interest, whatever. I'm happy to see it when it does happen.
He vehemently, angrily denied. He said, I'd never do that. So that is the piece of the puzzle I'm here to report today, that unlike the narrative of the press that President Trump wants to dig up dirt on his 2020 opponent, what he wants is an accounting of what happened in 2016. Who set him up?
Pause it for 1 second. Okay, so Ron Johnson just said that Sunderland told me that he was doing this, but the president denied it. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to deliver the fact that the president denied it, because Ron Johnson realized, like, I screwed up. I'm not very bright. I screwed up, but I'm going to try and make it better now. And here I go. I'm going to make it better for the president. I'm going to talk about this bizarre conspiracy theory about 2016.
Of what happened in 2016. Who set him up? Did things spring from Ukraine? You know, there's a good piece we've got an oversight letter on from Politico in 2017, where let me quote the article. It says, Ukrainian government officials tried to help Hillary Clinton and undermine Trump. They did so by disseminating documents implicating a top Trump aide in corruption, suggesting they were investigating the matter. Ukrainian officials also reportedly helped Clinton allies research damaging information on Trump and his advisors. There is potential interference.
Pause it. Now, I just want to make it clear. Clinton allies, I don't know who that constitutes. Paul Manafort was involved in some very corrupt stuff, apparently, in Ukraine, and so they did investigations on it. But I also want to remind everybody that no one he's just mentioned was a U.S. government official at the time, not to mention not president.
On Trump and his advisors. There is potential interference in the 2016
Let me
campaign.
ask you this.
That's what Trump wants to get to the bottom of, but the press doesn't want to. The people who wrote this article are being pilloried. I'm being called a conspiracy theorist. John Solomon's being called a conspiracy theorist because the press is horribly biased, and Trump and his supporters completely understand that.
I understand that a way to avoid answering a question is to attack us in the press. I'm well aware of that, and that's how it works.
No, I'm trying
Let me
to lay
ask
the
you
groundwork
something that
in order to
Ambassador
answer a
Volker
question.
said. Let me tell you what Ambassador Volker said under oath, and I'm curious if you share this concern. Ambassador Volker said this. I explained that I believe that Mayor Giuliani continues to have a negative view of Ukraine based on assertions of actions that happened in 2016, and that this viewpoint is likely making its way to the president. Were you concerned that Rudy Giuliani's disinformation campaign, sort of Ukrainian propaganda campaign, was negatively influencing the president's views of the current Ukrainian president?
Well, certainly the reports, not only from Rudy Giuliani, but from Ken Volkel out of Politico and John Solomon doing some pretty good investigative reporting. Now the Washington Post is attacking him, undermining him. All that information, we have never got the answers to those questions. Chuck, I want to get to the truth. I'm not here defending the president. I'm not here to denounce him either. What I'm here is telling you my piece of the puzzle here, giving you my honest assessment of what I heard, how the president told me repeatedly in the May 23rd Oval Office visit, on the phone on the 31st, the reason he had very legitimate concerns and reservations about Ukraine is first corruption, generalized, it's endemic. We all know that. And then specifically about what kind of interference in the 2016 election.
Wait, this was not the clip where he went off. There's a point in this where he went off. We don't have it.
Seems pretty lit.
There's a point where he goes off. I don't know where that clip is, but
he's about to pop off.
He goes off big time on him because this story is just a joke. Paul Manafort was not framed. Paul Manafort was not framed. Here, let's pop this one up.
Do you not trust the FBI? You don't trust the CIA?
No,
I'm just very confused here.
Absolutely
you don't trust
not.
either
After
of those
Peter Strzok and
agencies.
Lisa Page?
Okay.
After James Comey,
you believe the FBI and the CIA,
John Brennan? No, I don't trust any of
agencies?
these guys in the Obama administration. I don't trust any of them.
You don't trust them now? You trust them now?
No, I didn't trust them back then.
And you don't trust them now?
I do not trust John Brennan. I do not trust.
Do you trust the CIA and FBI now? Because none of them have come to any of the conclusions you're trying to come to. I'm just curious. Do you trust them now?
Now, who are you talking about?
The CIA and the FBI.
I don't trust Andrew McCabe.
Do you
I don't trust Andrew McCabe. I don't trust James Comey. I don't trust Peter Strzok. I don't trust John Brennan.
Senator, let me ask you this.
I've got a lot of questions that remain unanswered.
One of the things that you came on here to do.
Chuck.
I just want the
truth.
So
no, you set this thing up totally biased. I could never really get into the full narrative. We don't have enough time to go through all the things I can talk about in
You're
terms
right,
of
because you came here and chose to bring up something about Lisa
you
Page
started
and
the
Peter
piece
Strzok.
with something incredibly biased that I would never be able to get the truth out.
Senator, I don't know why you just came on here to personally attack the press and avoid answering questions about what's happened here.
Because of your setup,
Senator, it's pretty clear we're only dealing with the facts that we have, not the facts that you wish them to be.
And I can't get the answers. And I can't get the answers. The American people can't get.
Wait, there's another clip that gets even here. I mean, it's an amazing. It really is like amazing because and to a certain extent, and I'm not mean this just about Chuck Todd, but all of them for years have allowed Republicans to come on and just outright lie about things. Even like sort of more banal, less controversial things like if we cut taxes, revenues will go up. Stuff that everyone knows is not true. Everyone knows this is not true, but Paul Ryan spent an entire career going on these shows saying that. And nobody questioned them. And this is where it leads, of course. And now, not only does it lead to this, he's just going to go on to Fox and he's going to be able to deliver his message. They've reached that critical mass at Fox where they don't need this show. In fact, he's going to go on to Fox and they're going to play this exchange and it's going to prove his point because they allowed the Republicans to lie for so long.
Oh, they were always going to do that, though. Like, whether the press was going after them or not, they were going to go on and say the same lies.
But the point is now, because of the polarization in the media worlds, that this was not the case 10 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, you needed to launder stuff through Meet the Press, through Fox News to make it to Meet the Press. And now it's going the other direction. You're going to say like the media environment 15 years ago was, the trick was you get it onto Drudge, you get it onto Fox, then you get it onto Drudge, then it ends up on ABC. And now the goal is not to get it on ABC. They don't need to. They just get it on Fox. They don't even need Drudge anymore. They just get it on Fox. Then you go on NBC or ABC or wherever it is to have them deny it, which proves it to the people on Fox. They don't need this part of the media anymore.
Only as a punching bag to show off to their base.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And that's why, in many respects, Chuck Todd is reaping what he sowed and others sowed by allowing Republicans to come on and fabricate things. And now you get this Looney Tune stuff.
General of the Intelligence Committee asking to just confirm, are you investigating those leaks that Peter Strzok talked about in that text?
Senator, I have no idea why.
No, that's a setup. It is entirely relevant to this point.
Why a Fox News conspiracy propaganda stuff is popping up on here? I have no idea.
It is not.
I have no idea why we're going here.
That is
Senator,
because
I'm
this is
asking
underlying exactly why President Trump is upset and why his supporters are upset at the news media.
Okay, this is not about the media. Senator Johnson, please. Can we please answer the question that I asked you instead of trying to make Donald Trump feel better here that you're not criticizing him? I'm just trying to ask you a simple question of what made you wince. I'm asking a simple question.
General of the Intelligence Committee.
Okay, and what made him wince was in that story when Sondland said he's holding it up. He's holding up the stuff to get this information. And him wincing is what Johnson said he did.
He winced.
I winced.
He winced at how appropriate it was.
There you go. I always wince when things are really good.
The news is getting so lit.
It's making me wince. It's so lit. All right, folks. We're going to head into the fun half. Just a reminder, your support of this program makes it possible. We keep doing these long free shows, and I know that we shouldn't. I see the data. People can't listen to the whole things. But if you stuck with us this whole time, and you have the means to support this program, please do. You can become a member by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you support this show, and you get it commercial free, and you get extra content. And that's it. That's all we have for you for that. JustCoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority. Don't forget to sign up for the AM Quickie. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, majorityreport.fm. And folks, a reminder, Capterra, it's the leading free online resource to help you find the best software solution for your business with over 1 million reviews. Anybody who reads all million reviews on Capterra, we will give them a free Majority Report t-shirt. I don't know how we prove that, but 1 million reviews of products from real software users. You can discover everything you need to make an informed decision for your business. Visit capterra.com/majority for free today. Find the tools to make an informed software decision for your business. Capterra.com/majority. Capterra, that's Capterra, CAPTERRA.com/majority. Capterra, software selection simplified. Tonight is Tuesday. TMBS should be happening. I believe it will.
As far as I know.
You check it out at 7 p.m. On YouTube or wherever your podcasts are served. Jamie, the Antifada.
Oh, we have so much stuff right now.
You're a week away from your show.
Less than a week.
Oh my God.
I know, it's crazy. So yeah, I guess I'll start with that. This weekend with the Antifada, we have the Goth Socialist Variety Hour, which we are doing with our Goth Socialist sister show, Pod Damn America. Very good show, led by Jake Flores, very funny guy. And it's going to be at Littlefield in Brooklyn this coming Saturday. We're going to have merch available. It's the only place you can get an Antifada t-shirt right now and stickers. We're going to have some really good guests, including Leslie Lee III from Struggle Session, my collaborator on The Vampire Castle, as well as Matt Christman and Virgil Texas from Chapo Trap. We're going to do some little debates that you, the audience, will get to judge. It's just going to be a big guy yelling at a little guy. It's going to be great. And a drag performance, of course, from your friend and mine, Comrade Barbie.
Wow. And Matt.
Literary Hangover. Check out my most recent episode on the abolitionist and feminist Lydia Maria Child's Hobbamock. This month is going to be a witch month, so we're going to be doing Crucible at the end of it, and I might do some other stuff too. So look forward to that.
Witch month.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous? You're a little bit upset? You're riled up?
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
That's some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 2, 38, 56, 27. 1/2. 5 8s. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance, dance, dance.
Ooh.
my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agree.
No.
Death to America.
You.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way! Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook. Throw our hands up. Ooh. Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey! Shut up!
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
oh God, oh God,
Making powerful enemies.
folks, there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than a Democratic primary season. Nothing worse. And you know why? Because it's endless, and it's impossible. Like, I remember in 2004, just being grateful that I was not on the air until April of 2004, when it was basically just like Kerry. I mean, I think at the time, I think it was Dean. I can't remember who else was running, but Dean was the most interesting to me, just basically because he had all small donors.
The Scream was not uninteresting.
Well, I mean, but my point is just like his politics were not necessarily particularly left or progressive. He was against the war, which was good, and that was hard to find in that era. But I really did appreciate the fact that his campaign funds came via the internet and were small donors at that point.
Yeah, I still remember my friend's mom had some kind of a chocolate dessert party for him at their house.
There you go. And chocolate. That was another reason why to support him. But I do remember in coming on the air in April of 2004 and being grateful that I had missed that primary season. And that was, that opinion was validated in 2008 when it was unbelievable. The Pumas, which do you know what Pumas is? Pumas were the Clinton supporters who party unity my ass was what they said at the time. They were very, very, very angry about Barack Obama winning.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, someone should make a law about how long primary season can last. Oh, wait, they did that already in other countries.
Well, not only should there be a law about how long the primary season can last, because it seems like it lasts about, so far, 5 or 6 years in this country.
At least.
I mean, people are still arguing about 2016, as you can see. So I don't know that it ever ends. Calling from a 631 area code. Who's this?
Hello, can you hear me well?
Yeah. Who's this?
Okay, this is LaShawn Payne from Virginia. Shouldn't have said my whole name, but it's LaShawn from Virginia.
Yes, we will just pretend you didn't say that. LaShawn, what's on your mind?
All right, so I got a couple things for you. First of all, moving to Virginia, it's been very red. I'm from New York. Before that, I was in San Francisco. So this has been a real breath of fresh air. Just love your show. I've been feeling like I've been getting gaslit because I wasn't used to seeing Trump hats. So it's been a real refresher.
Oh, well, yes, you have my my sympathies.
Yeah. So moving straight forward, a lot of people that I listen to, so you, David Pakman, have been saying, or were saying in the beginning of this impeachment inquiry, let's drag this on for months, let's get everything out there. But I think that the speed of the Democratic impeachment has been playing to the benefits of the media and avoiding a Mueller report situation where it's so long and it's so drawn out, and it gives the Republican media apparatus, which is super strong and powerful, in my opinion, the ability to sort of, well, I'm going to discredit everything. I'm just going to keep saying that they're lies. I know that nobody is going to read this. So now we just have this sort of powerful and interesting thing for people to watch. And I was wondering if you think that that's sort of part of the plan here, is to play with the media and play with speed so that Republicans sort of don't have the time to run a smear campaign.
Oh, no, listen.
Like they did in
I think Democrats need to maintain the pace of this. I think it's really important that there is that we see we have a witness not show up at least once or twice a week, frankly. I mean, I would even pace it up even more. But I'm just saying that there's plenty of material. Right? Like, I don't think we need to wrap this up in 6 weeks. I think we should pace this out, but the fact is there's plenty of material. Like, I want to hear. I mean, I don't know if they can subpoena Ron Johnson, but I want to hear about Ron Johnson's conversation with Sondland. I want Ron Johnson to say, but I winced. Why did you wince, Senator? I mean, I want inherent contempt against Pompeo. I want these documents. I want to see it all. I want to see what's in that server, that deep server. Like, why are you holding back on these conversations with Xi? Why are you holding back on all these different conversations?
The Xi conversations are one of my favorites. Well, so I 100% agree. Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, that's my point. It's just like, I think the pace of it is important. But the reason why the conservative media is having a problem with it is because it's damning. Like, it's bad. And now that the Democrats have announced it's bad, like, literally that's all it took. It's bad. And people know it's bad. But the problem is like, how does a person out there, and this is the thing that the Democrats don't seem to understand, or do understand it, or just afraid of it, or have a different agenda. I think all those answers apply to different ones. But that, like, you are a politician. You are a leader. You define and basically provide the first order analysis for all of these things. Like, if, and there's a lot of people out there who actually trust Nancy Pelosi. So if Nancy Pelosi doesn't get out there and make an assessment about this stuff that is in any way meaningful, then people are just going to assume it's not important. I mean, like, for me, if, like, if AOC supports a bill, my first inclination is going to be like, then I would support that bill. Now, I might dig into it a little bit more, but that's what I do professionally. But the bottom line is that's just the way that it is.
There was something that you said earlier about Nancy Pelosi, if I can continue. You said, who would say they have more knowledge than Pelosi on Democratic impeachment? And you're talking about her coming out and saying, let's impeach, and everybody going, oh, okay, a senator said, now I believe it. And I agree to an extent, but I think a big problem in the last 4 years has been everybody believes they're an armchair politician now, to be fair, including me. But I think that, like, there are a lot. I feel like the guy who likes a band and then, like, everyone else gets into it, and I'm like, oh, these are all normies. These are just vanilla. They don't really get the culture. I feel like since Trump has come into office, a bunch of political fanatics have come about that they weren't having conversations, at least with me, about politics before this 5 years ago. And I'm going to let you go after that because I'll talk forever. All
right. Well, no, but I mean, LaShawn, I would say you're right. There's a lot more folks like that. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I remember we all felt the same way about Nirvana. People were bummed. Oh, I loved them at Bleach. And then all of a sudden this comes out and they're a huge hit now because Teen Spirit. Oh, now look at all the idiots who come to the show. Well, I mean, look, why shouldn't they have some success? Good. I don't think it's everybody. I think, we can, certainly there's a lot more people who are invested in politics, but there's also a ton that are not. And they're not, they disengage for a myriad of reasons that range from they don't feel that government can do anything for them, or they just like, I don't need government that much. I don't think government does. I mean, I've seen people, wealthy people, upper middle class people, professionals who are just like, just tell me who the Democratic candidate is. When we got one, that's when I'm going to support it, and I'll be back then. And I'm going to take the next 6 months off. And I look at them with just sort of the greatest amount of envy that I could possibly have. And then, and impeachment, they're going to read the headlines, and they're just going to go by like, Democrats say that he should be impeached. Okay, I do too. Boom, 58%. Appreciate the call. Thanks, man.
Appreciate you. Have a good one.
Thanks. Calling from a 737 area code. Who's this? Where you calling from? 737. 737. Calling from 786 area code. Who's this? Where you calling from?
Hell yeah. What's up?
What's up?
How you doing, man?
Good. Who's this?
All right, perfect. You know who this is. This is Michael Brooks.
Michael Brooks. All right.
Yo.
What's up?
Yeah. All right, well.
Where are you?
Earlier in the podcast today, you mentioned Rojava and how, well, not Rojava specifically, but northern Syria and the situation going on there.
Right.
And you said that you saw an article that the Kurds would release ISIS fighters.
Yep.
Yeah, I found that tremendously interesting. It actually put a smile on my face. Not because, of course, we have any interest to support ISIS, but this axis of allies America has in the Middle East between supporting Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Turkey is just an abomination. But besides Syria, I mean, I can't think of any other sort of intervention America's involved in that is like important to be in, right? Or even justified to be in. You were also saying how there was, what was going on was that American troops in cooperation with Turkish forces were having Kurds destroy outposts along the Turkish border, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's less that. What it was is that there was a deal being made. The U.S. wanted the Kurds to go after what remained of ISIL. And the Kurds said, yeah, but we need to maintain our fortifications on the border with Turkey because we're afraid of Turkey. And the U.S. said, here's what we'll do. We're going to put a 5-mile buffer. We will put our own troops there. We will patrol with Turkish troops. Everybody agrees. And then you can dismantle your fortifications, move that stuff to the front lines with ISIL. And that's what they did. And now they get screwed.
Of course. And now their back is completely exposed.
Exactly.
The Turkish knife.
Michael,
perfect.
Michael, you have learned so much from me over the years. I appreciate your
No,
call.
I mean, of course.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Wow, he really can't stay away when we're talking about foreign policy.
It's true. It's true.
His voice sounds different when he's stoned.
His voice does sound much different when he's on the phone and he's high. Calling from a 308 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 308?
Hello?
308. Kowalski.
Hey, it's Kowalski from Flatwater.
What? Well, you throw us a curveball.
Globetrotter.
Well, flatwater is the Odal Indian word for Nebraska. So
all right. There you go.
The more you know.
Flat land, too.
But hey, I just wanted to call in because I think I can put a lot of stuff in context for the Middle East. And yeah, for what it's worth, my take on some foreign policy. It's just basic, some information I've been looking into. But if you give me like 2 minutes to explain, I promise you there's a point.
Okay, go.
All right, so the United States this year will become the world's largest exporter of oil because last year we became the world's largest producer of oil. Right now, it is in the U.S. interest not to secure global energy trade, but to disrupt it because it's good for American business. Therefore, we stand to gain more by disrupting Venezuela, by allowing the Iranians or the CIA to destroy Saudi Arabia's capacity to export oil and completely disrupt the Persian Gulf. It also then stands to reason why we've been kind of backstabbing the Canadians and their ability to move oil. And if you really think of it that way, it really does explain why we just simply aren't going to let the world move forward.
That sounds...
We stand to gain on pretty much every front. So, that being said, support Sanders because obviously he's the only Democrat who's going to change that kind of policy.
I mean, without a doubt, I think he's the only one. I mean, he's the only one who has a non sort of like typical foreign policy that we see, that diverges from the establishment. I don't know that any of the Democrats would necessarily, frankly, be as moved by the same forces to disrupt, let's say, the oil business, because I don't think most of their money comes from oil in the way that it does with the Republican Party. I think there may be other factors that lead them to do similar things, but it's not necessarily, I think, it's much easier for me to imagine that the guy, the fracking king who supported, the first EPA guy, I can't even remember his name now. Ham, is it? Harold Ham? Yes. Scott, right. I can't even remember his name. But the guy from Oklahoma. Pruitt. Scott Pruitt.
The guy who's
Scott Pruitt.
The EPA.
Right. Scott Pruitt, who his benefactor is a guy named, I think, Harold Ham, who is a huge fracker, who I would imagine is one of those guys where if the price of that oil goes up, even marginally, he's going to do a lot better. Somebody is getting in Donald Trump's ear. And I think that's really the difference. I mean, I think, look, Bernie Sanders would reorient our foreign policy in a very fundamental way.
Seems like it would be actually ethical for a change.
Yeah.
Sounds incredibly nice. But before I go here, I did just want to say I kind of agree with you on the whole impeachment thing. It needs to be a slow burn over months because right now it's pretty much sowing discontent because people who aren't actively engaged, they go home, they see the news, it's another scandal, another allegation. Instead of Trump bombarding and controlling the narrative, the Democrats are actually doing a fairly good job. And I, of course, support that because Trump's war on farmers has not been particularly well. So
they are controlling the media narrative. I mean, when has that happened? It hasn't. And I agree with you. It is putting all of them on the defensive, and I think it's great. Appreciate the call.
Got them on their heels, boys. Keep it up.
Exactly. Bye. Here's another example of them on their heels. I mean, what are the Republicans? What is the right talking about? They are not going out with any type of like agenda. They are responding to things. Here's Ben Shapiro. He's having to try and figure out how to deliver this. I guess he's in a hotel room somewhere doing his radio show, maybe? I'm not quite sure. Maybe he's just doing a pod. I don't know what he's doing. But here he is, basically trying to explain what? I mean, I think this is We're one of those things where form meets function. It's so incomprehensible, but all the words individually make sense. It's just that there's some type of jumble. Let's play this.
When it comes to scandals, when it comes to President Trump came up with a plan. The plan was deploy Rudy Giuliani to uncover the specific corruption of Joe Biden and then leverage the Ukrainian government to help Rudy Giuliani to go after the specific corruption of Joe Biden because the man, he has a gimlet-eyed, sharp
Pause it. Oh, I guess here, now I understand it. What he's trying to say is like, this is such an intricate plan that Donald Trump, it's ridiculous that Donald Trump could come up with it. Let's be clear on what the plan was. I know that you're getting money from Congress. I'm not going to give it to you until you give me what I want. That's like
12-dimensional chess.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
There.
I got news for you. My 6-year-old son comes up with more sophisticated plans than that. That's a pretty basic plan. And they're like, wait a second, President Trump, why are you stopping? Why are you holding up this money? Just say the agencies are doing it or come up with an idea. Like maybe Ben Shapiro doesn't realize that he's surrounded by people who are not as incoherent as he is. They're bad people, but they're not incoherent.
They're problem solvers.
If the Mad King is going around saying, I want the stuff on Biden and they're not going to get their money until I get it, you tell Mike Pence he can't go, they're going to come up with some, lie to protect it. But for Ben Shapiro, I'm going to try and make it like it's impossible for Donald Trump to come up with this intricate of a plan. Go back.
And then leverage the Ukrainian government to help Rudy Giuliani to go after the specific corruption of Joe Biden because the man, he has a gimlet-eyed, sharp-eyed, steely missile man-eyed plan. He is just going to carry that. Here's the best defense. No. Right? That's the best defense is no. You got to be kidding. No, this is not a dude with a plan. And the problem for Republicans is that you're not allowed to say that. That's the problem for Republicans, is that if you're a Republican senator and you say that, Trump might attack you. Trump might go after you. So instead, you have to somehow plan that. You have to say this is all 4D chess. But the problem is if you say it's 4D chess, then he's capable of seeing what he's doing. And if he's capable of seeing what he's doing, it makes him look more guilty, not less guilty.
Pause it. Well, this is funny, but it's not 4D chess. Saying I'm going to keep you from getting the money that has been appropriated to you unless you give me dirt on Joe Biden, that's not 4D chess. That's not even 3D chess. That's not checkers. That's not even checkers. It would be checkers if you couldn't do double jumps, I would say, right? It's like tiddlywinks is really what it is. But Ben Shapiro wants to tell his conservative followers that that's so intricate that Donald Trump could never come up with it. And the only reason why people aren't saying that Donald Trump doesn't have the intelligence or coherence to do that is because they're afraid of Donald Trump. What kind of messed up dynamic does he think is going on in the Republic? Oh, I know.
And if he's capable of seeing what he's doing, it makes him look more guilty, not less guilty. So here's the thing. As every good defense lawyer knows, there are a few defenses that are available when it comes to crimes of intent. Okay, and when it comes to a bribery situation like this, like a bribery case that they're trying to make, or a quid pro quo, or a targeting case, which is what they're talking about, an abuse of power, you sort of require intent as an element of the crime. The quick answer for a defense lawyer is intent was not here. There was no intent. The intent was not present. And here's the beautiful thing about Trump as a client. The intent is almost never there because Trump doesn't have requisite intent for nearly anything. The man has the attention span of a gnat.
Pause it. This is just a bizarre thing to say. The only thing that Donald Trump has is intent. He doesn't have the ability necessarily to execute, but all he does is have just naked desires. And
oh yeah, he's a walking id.
But exactly. It's all he is. Now, I would also add that any defense attorney would say to you, but this is not a criminal case. This is an impeachment. It's a political case. And we don't have to prove intent. We can prove that he illicitly held up this money. And then also illicitly requested aid from a foreign government for his political campaign. And then we could combine those two and say he extorted this government for falsified information, and we can impeach him. You can impeach him on any one of those counts, frankly, and I hope they do. But good.
Attention span of a gnat. That doesn't mean that he can't actually do wonderful things as president. He's done many wonderful things that I appreciate. It's why I'm more likely to vote for him now than I was in 2016. I get all that. I get that he's delegated a lot of stuff. That's great. He's done a lot of things I think no other Republican would do. Sometimes it's great that he's punching back at the media. All of that is granted, taken for granted. If you are his defense lawyer, his best defense too, he had a plan in Ukraine to go after Joe Biden is dude doesn't have plans. Here's the evidence. He doesn't plan things. Ever. When is the last time Trump had like a 4-step plan? He just doesn't. And he has great instincts, great political, no plan.
This is one of the, I want to say dumbest arguments I think I've ever heard. I'm going to vote for this guy who has no plan. He has no plans. He has no plans.
Because he has no plans.
And the evidence is because he has no plans.
I believe that's what we call a tautology.
Something to that effect.
It's only 2 steps, Ben. It's called Ukraine's not playing ball on Joe Biden, so we're not going to play ball with them. 2 steps.
How many argumentative fallacies do you think were in that clip? Should we ask Ben Burgess?
I mean, there's a lot, but it's also just sort of like ridiculous.
Fantasyland premises.
There's a category error where he substitute intent for intelligence.
Maybe it was philosophy, and I just didn't understand it because he's the cool kid's philosopher.
It's possible.
Like I say, the Republicans are on their heels. Here is Scott Walker, who was a creation of the Koch brothers through the AFP. This is Americans for Prosperity. He was one of the early states to adopt voter ID and vote suppression tactics on voters. And he also oversaw the redistricting in Wisconsin, which allows for Democrats to win 56% of the vote and yet control only 36% of the Wisconsin Senate. You heard that right. Here he is, sitting with Pete Hegseth, talking about the coup that is taking place in terms of redistricting. I mean, they're so much better at this in some respects. But go ahead.
Eric Holder facing backlash for what Wall Street Journal editorial board is calling a, quote, redistricting coup. Holder is part of a national redistricting action fund that's launching initiatives across the country to throw out Republican maps and turn districts blue in time for the elections. And they've already had success in North Carolina. Former Wisconsin governor and finance chairman of the Republican National...
The success they had in North Carolina was because the Supreme Court found what the Republicans did there was racially gerrymandering.
Wait, he literally just admitted that they're Republican maps.
Exactly.
In North Carolina. Former Wisconsin governor and finance chairman of the Republican National Redistricting Trust, Scott Walker, joins us now with how he's fighting back. Thanks for being here, Governor.
Great to be with you.
And I hear you played the drums, so if you want to join Brantley Gilbert at some point, you can. But this is serious stuff. Yeah. It feels like you're getting in the weeds, but you're fighting for the future of maps that matter for who wins elections.
And they already have. I mean, Eric Holder's been at this for years. They have this whole sue until it's blue mentality.
Sue until the district is blue.
Right, sue until it's blue. So even in a state like North Carolina, where Republicans are in charge of the Assembly and the Senate, the 2 houses there, they've gone to court, and over the years, they've gotten involved in Supreme Court races. So now the liberals, Eric Holder's team, now controls who's on the Supreme Court in North Carolina. And after the federal government, the U.S. Supreme Court said they weren't going to get involved with this. It's now in every one of the states. So North Carolina is one of the many states where Eric Holder's been doing this for years.
You mentioned North Carolina. Here's a statement Eric Holder put out about those maps.
I love the fact that Eric Holder has the ability to stack the Supreme Court, but can't get anybody elected on the state houses. I wonder why that is. I wonder why it is Democratic voters can elect the Supreme Court justices in North Carolina, but they can't seem to take the House and the Senate. I wonder if that has something to do with those maps that the Republicans drew. Good.
Here's a statement Eric Holder put out about those maps on September 27th. He said, for nearly a decade, the people of North Carolina have been forced to vote in manipulated electoral maps that were drawn by Republicans in the legislature to create a partisan outcome. It's time for this era of gerrymandering in North Carolina to come to an end. He says he's just fighting for fair maps, Governor.
Right. The irony is, if you look at the form he files with the IRS, they actually say not that they're fighting for fair maps. They talk about giving Democrats an advantage in this. This is what this is all about. His efforts last year in 2018, even before the next census in 2020, already had an impact on 27 different House seats. So in large part because of what Eric Holder and his cronies, and he's got a lot of support with Barack Obama. Barack Obama's organization, Organizing for America, is now a part of that as well. They affected making the elections in 2018, effectively making Nancy Pelosi, not Kevin McCarthy, the speaker.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to look at the face of a guy who is knowingly lying and doing it with just total ease. And I mean, this is terrifying stuff. It's terrifying to me to watch a guy lie, know he's lying. Not only know that he's lying, but know that he was instrumental in all the components of that lie. In all the real world things that he was lying about, he was instrumental in creating. And yet he just sits there. Maybe they paid for his flight to New York, or maybe, I don't know.
Maybe his election trust team.
Oh, I'm sure he's getting paid by some super PAC that has hired him to go around and do this stuff. No doubt. God, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this, but we got to do it. We got to do it. And you know what? I'm so annoyed that I've got to do this. But I don't know if my daughter is a fan of Ellen's right now. I mean, I know that she's talked about Ellen in the past. And this is why this is important. This is why this is important, because it takes very little time. We used to get Gore Vidal used to come on the show, the Majority Report on Air America. You come into studio. And I think around the time that he had written United States of Amnesia. And I couldn't quite get what he was talking about. I mean, I understood what he was saying, but I didn't really genuinely feel it. And I think part of it was that I was not engaged in politics, in 2004, 2005, to the extent that I have been now. I've been doing this for 15 years on a professional basis, looking every day at the news. And so I'm hyper conscious to the fact of how quickly people forget certain realities. And that's why we got to do this. This is Ellen DeGeneres. Is this just a picture? Is this just
That's the still.
Yeah, this is a still shot of her at a football game with George Bush and Laura Bush. Now, you could probably say, criticize people, in the same way like Michelle Obama. Big fan of George Bush because he gave her a mint. Now, there's different pressures on Michelle Obama than there is on Ellen, right? I mean, Michelle Obama, you've got to sort of maintain, there is a civic sort of duty to maintain some semblance between presidents of like some type of, nonviolent transfer of power type of stuff. But nevertheless, I would criticize Michelle Obama for this, and I criticize Barack Obama for not impeaching the guy. And for trying to turn the page instead of looking back on things like torture, instead of looking back on things like bringing this country into a war where we were responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of civilians. Probably in some level, you could probably track it just to the 100 who died this week, the 6,000 who were injured.
And you know what? Jane would not take the candy.
Exactly. And so it's not just Ellen, but Ellen's the latest, so we're going to talk about it. Here she is. She goes on her show. I will remind you, too, and maybe Ellen's only referring to this, But I watched George Bush go on national television, a primetime address to the country on how he had to change the Constitution to make sure that gay people were not allowed to get married and have the, 1,900 rights that are attributed to married people in this country. But maybe she's not thinking at all of the thousands, the hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians who are killed. These are by our own Defense Department numbers. I'm giving you the conservative numbers. 4 million refugees, 2 million external, 2 million internal. Here is Ellen DeGeneres talking about the haters who have an issue with the fact that I hung out with George Bush.
During the game, they showed a shot of George and me laughing together, and so people were upset. They thought, why is a gay Hollywood liberal sitting next to a conservative Republican president? Didn't even notice I'm holding the brand new iPhone 11. And but a lot of people were mad, and they did what people do when they're mad. They tweet, and but here's one tweet that I loved. This person says, Ellen and George Bush together makes me have faith in America again. And exactly. Here's the thing. I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. We're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay that we're all different. For instance, I wish people wouldn't wear fur. I don't like it, but I'm friends with people who wear fur. And I'm friends with people who are furry, as a matter of fact. I have friends who should tweeze more. And I have, but just because I don't agree with someone on everything doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friends with them. When I say be kind to one another, I don't mean only the people that think the same way that you do. I mean be kind to everyone. Doesn't matter.
Well, I wonder if she really means that. I mean, I wonder if she means that. Would you be kind to someone who you know to be a serial rapist? Would you be kind to someone that you know to be a serial murderer? My guess is, well, maybe if they were, would you be kind to someone who you saw beating a child?
Maybe if we went to the same country club.
Well, I mean, I'm curious. Maybe she has the ability to be kind to every human being, even Hitler. I would be kind to. I would hang out and laugh at a football game at Hitler. Now I know I'm using an extreme, but my point is like there must be a line where you determine that you will not be kind to someone, that it is actually unhelpful to a better society to show that you can get along with them. Unhelpful to endorse them by being around them. And if there is a line, then what we're doing is we're arguing what constitutes someone who has passed that line. And I would argue that someone who allowed, promoted, protected the United States becoming a torture nation. I would argue that someone who lied the country into a war that killed 100,000 plus innocent civilians. I would argue that someone who expanded the ability for us to be surveilled. I would argue that the person who ignored warnings about a terrorist attack to hit the United States, I would say that person crosses the line for me. And if Ellen got up there and said, like, look, I can forgive the killing of the 100,000 plus civilians, and I can forgive the torture, or I have a problem with it, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to get in the way of me having fun with that person. That would be the honest response. But basically what she's doing is burying history, burying truth. And that's what I have a problem with.
You know, I bet she wasn't even thinking about all the bodies he's got on him when she said that. I bet she was thinking about like the gay marriage stuff.
Yeah, I think she was. I think she was. And you know what? On some level, like, I can understand that. I can understand, like, you know, saying that like people evolve. You could pretend that it was, you know, he evolved as opposed to just like was leveraging it for his own personal gain. But I mean, I don't know that I would do it. But if that's what she's talking about, But she's ignoring the incredible human suffering and toll that this guy presided over. And just not even ignoring it. She is eliminating it.
Acting like we're upset because we want to police George Bush for thought crime. Like, this isn't about sharing beliefs with him. This is about him acting on those beliefs as the most powerful person in the world.
He harmed this country. Donald Trump would not exist but for George W. Bush.
And if you dislike Donald Trump, maybe you should dislike the one who's got 1 million bodies on him just as much, at least.
But, of course, who will come to her defense? Who will come to her defense? Why? Look, it's Eric Weinstein from the IDW. Great to have you aboard, Ellen. Because and then Weinstein says, now I should add that what I'm affirming is the general principle that she is stating, and not that we should all break bread with anyone and everyone. Now, it sounded like she was saying we should break bread with anyone and everyone. But he says, there are bloodied hands that I would shake and clean ones that I would not. So then he's saying, like, I have a whole nother agenda. I don't have a problem with people whose hands are bloodied. But mostly shunning and shaming just tears us apart. Well, mostly. I mean, if someone said, like, well, this guy worked for the Bush administration, but they just worked in, the Justice Department and they worked in the Civil Rights Division or whatever it is, or this guy worked in Bush's EPA, but he was just, I'd have no problem with that. But what Eric Weinstein is saying here is nothing. He is saying nothing. And she is not saying mostly shunning and shaming just tears apart. If you don't shun and shame someone like George Bush, who do you shun and shame? Oh, I know, Eric. You shun me. You refuse to engage with me.
Do you have the clean hands he wouldn't shake?
I guess maybe my hands are the clean ones that I wouldn't shake. He would engage with Billy Bragg, even though Billy Bragg said much meaner things about Eric than I did. These people are celebrity chasers. You just look at Dave Rubin has done this desperately. I know for a fact I have talked to reporters who used to do the comedy beat, who Dave Rubin would write, brag about, and, like, please write a story about me. I just had a tweet that went viral. I'm not kidding. The way that they chase Hollywood, I think, really, really exposes what these guys are about. I got news for you. I don't perceive Eric Weinstein as a celebrity, but I am very, very interested in talking and engaging with him. I don't perceive Dave Rubin as a celebrity or Steven Crowder. I have friends who are significantly more famous than these people.
That is true.
And yeah, some who have been in the studio. But I know how destructive their stuff is. I don't care about in any way engaging with Ellen DeGeneres. But I do care that there's going to be, and that video will probably get, several million views, several million young people out there who are just not going to get. She's got 35 million subscribers who are just not going to understand that, who just have no sense of what George Bush did at that time.
And the people that do are downers.
Yep.
And she's not going to tell them.
That's right. She's going to do worse than not tell them. She's going to give them another narrative. Like, we just had a disagreement about whether you should kill all these people for no
thought
reason.
Police.
Yep. And the last thing I ever want to do is address what Ellen DeGeneres has said on our TV show, but that's what it is.
Well, it seems like the tide might be turning against that kind of thing, even among liberals. Like the amount of uproar that we've seen over it, or is that just like Twitter not representative?
It may be just Twitter, but it's nice to know that at least there are some people who are conscious of it. And if it's on Twitter, at least there's an opportunity for them to tell other people. I mean, it's different than when George Bush was president, because there was a lot of people who spoke out about George Bush who got a lot worse treatment than Ellen DeGeneres did now. The Dixie Chicks, they built bonfires when they said they were embarrassed by her. I don't remember Ellen DeGeneres going out there and saying, hey, whoa, wait a second.
It'd be nice.
Yeah, seriously.
Janine Garofalo was constantly harassed. And I don't remember Ellen DeGeneres coming up and saying, hey, wait a second. I mean, give me a break.
Well, that's the great thing about alternative media and social media for all the bad parts of social media. Like, you can say stuff back to these people and you know that you're not alone and you're not crazy for thinking that they're ghouls.
It has, for all the things that suck about Twitter, it has democratized things in a way, as far as it goes, that I think are positive. It gives the opportunity for people who don't have a platform to actually get, to influence the conversation. And I think that's really important. I mean, one of the problems that we have with having all billionaires in the Senate and just wealthy people as congressmen is that they don't hear from other people. And it was also a very much a problem within the media to a large extent. And for better or for worse, sometimes it's worse. But the better part is a lot of the media people, they hang out on Twitter. And what they're hearing, that what they're swimming in is influenced by people who don't have power, don't have a sort of a platform outside of Twitter. And that's very helpful. And you don't even need a huge platform in the context of Twitter. You can have, several thousand followers. You could have 100 followers. And if you say the right thing to the right person, it can expand it. You have the opportunity to sort of like carry a message. And I think that's pretty good.
I have a friend who knows some people in like local Texas politics and talking about staffers on like Congress people's staffs and stuff like that. And he's telling me about one who's currently having his mind blown by Thomas Frank's Listen Liberal and Jane Mayer's Dark Money. I think we underestimate how much like people just haven't been open to like those arguments at all.
Yep.
Nice.
This is encouraging. Let's do one on a good note. Here is a shot of Bernie Sanders going out, taking a walk in Vermont, one of his palatial abodes.
It's crossing the moat.
Look at that garage. It almost looks like it's electric. Look at that fancy is that a Ford Fiesta? Is that what that is?
That jacket for when it's cold out, that's fancy too.
Oh, I see you're Democratic Socialist, but you got no problem wearing a coat. Uh-huh. And I see you got a lawn, too. Whoa. It's sort of shocking to see like a, potential president walking out of a house like that. That's one of the things that I appreciated about Mike Dukakis. I think Dukakis' house was very similar, but I don't know if Bernie, shovels the snow like Dukakis did.
Can't stop him. He's a cyborg now.
There we go.
He's post-human.
We will see Bernie in within a week from today. We will be doing live coverage of the Democratic debate. All right, here's something, since we were talking about comedians, and Marin had something good I noticed on Twitter the other day, my old friend Mark Marin, about, if you're punching down, you've got a problem in comedy. And here's Chris Morris. I don't know if you've ever seen The Brass Eye, but if you haven't seen this British Brass Eye, if you want to understand where so much of like British comedy has come from over the past 5-10 years, et cetera, et cetera. The Brass Eye, it's like, I don't know how big it was in England. I have no idea. I think it was pretty big. I mean, they don't have, but there's equality for someone like this guy's like the Velvet Underground in music, where it's like they sold 1,000 records, but everyone who bought a record started a band that you've heard of.
By the way, Brass Eye and I believe The Day Today, they're all on YouTube, so people can just watch those.
Oh, YouTube. Yes, I've heard of that. And here is Chris Morris talking about the point of satire in this day and age. And I think he's reacting maybe to, or is this just an example that we have of Maya Rudolph? Yeah, but here.
I don't really see the point of comedy unless there's something underpinning it. I mean, what are you doing? Are you doing some kind of exotic display for the court to be patted on the head by the court, or are you trying to change something?
Isn't Trump half the time many steps ahead of you?
Ahead of me?
Yeah, ahead of you. Ahead of you in the sense that he's doing things even you might not have dreamt an American president could do.
But it's not about the failure of your imagination to get to a point. It's what he's doing. Trump's move is to confuse people, yes, but you've got to stick to what's actually happening. And I think that, yeah, you need to take notes pretty fast right now, but I don't think he's escaped ridicule. I mean, he is self-ridiculing, but you're always going to be able to ridicule someone like that. The problem is that I think we've got used to a kind of satire which essentially placates the court. You do a nice dissection of the way things are in the Orthodox elite, and lo and behold, you get slapped on the back by the Orthodox elite who say, jolly good, can you do us another one? That's not what it's about. So in a way, these times should bring on something with a bit more clout.
And you really don't feel outflanked by the bonkers which is going on right now?
No, I really don't.
Come on.
I don't feel outflanked.
Even you couldn't have conceived some of this stuff.
But it's not about that, is it? It's about looking at what's happening and deciding what's ridiculous about it. It's not about, at the time we were doing the day-to-day, the Sunday Sport was reporting World War bombers on the moon. It's never about that. It's about the thrust, and it's really about whether the people that you're lancing can get off your spike.
I mean, it's sort of stunning. I don't know if that guy actually got it. The idea is not like, oh, I sit around and imagine what silliness the President Trump can do again, or anybody in power, what they could do again. The idea is actually reinterpreting what they're doing and showing people what the essence of what they're doing is and what is problematic about it. And the idea is you got to draw blood. And if people can appreciate the work, the way that you're satirizing them, then you're not doing it correctly. And by people, I mean the people in power. You don't need to satirize people who don't have power because it's irrelevant, largely irrelevant. I mean, unless it's really just to edify people's superiority over others. This is a good example of this. Maya Rudolph playing Kamala Harris. Now, look, she doesn't write this stuff. And, Saturday Night Live is really fundamentally about talking to 15-year-olds. And I'm not being facetious about that. I mean, I think that is like the specific...
Do kids really watch SNL anymore?
Oh, I
feel like it's for baby boomers.
I think that it's probably like 15-year-olds and 65-year-olds. I don't know.
People who don't go out on Saturday night.
That's right. But I don't go out on Saturday night, and I don't watch it. Kamala Harris, the girl being played by Maya Rudolph on NBC, that girl was me, and she talks about that. And then Maya Rudolph is like, yes, Senator, and honored to attempted to be as cool as you. I mean, I guess maybe the writing was more biting, and she's just happy to be the vehicle. But I don't know.
Oh my God! I mean, look, people can also get really triggered and have intense reactions to satire that's not even that good of them. Like, see also Donald Trump. Sure. He absolutely wants to put all of SNL in jail for their weak ass satire. But if the people in power do like it, then you know you've done it wrong.
Exactly. Them not liking it could be just a function of their narcissism and their ego.
I'm not going to be sad when Trump puts them all in jail.
Lastly, speaks very highly of Barack Obama. I had no idea about this. Barack Obama does not get the credit he deserves in trying to de-escalate our imperialism and our militarism around the world. Apparently, and this is breaking news, according to the President of the United States, when he entered office, the military did not have any bullets. Let's play this.
Force. The UK was very thrilled at this decision. As you know, they're over there. They have soldiers over there also, and others. But many people agree with it very strongly, and I understand both sides of it. I fully understand both sides of it. But I campaigned on the fact that I was going to bring our soldiers home and bring them home as rapidly as possible.
Pause it for 1 second. He is talking about trying to explain his decision to essentially screw over the Kurds. I mean, let's be clear, too. These troops in that area, whenever you're in the field, you're in harm's way. But this is a demilitarized, it's supposed to be a demilitarized zone. I mean, they're trying to maintain at least, they're really basically there as a buffer zone. I don't want to say a peacekeeping force, but it's pretty close. But go ahead.
As rapidly as possible. We, all together, we defeated and took over 100% of the ISIS caliphate.
Pause it. I'm sorry. I've got to do that again. Did you notice how he said I, and then he remembered, they told me not to say I. I didn't defeat it. We, you, all of us.
Literally none of us.
Right. Nobody here. Maybe he's pointing. There could be some military personnel in front of him who may have come back from the field. I defeated, we, you, I, he catches himself. Go back and play that because it takes him about 15 seconds to forget that he was supposed to attribute it to other people besides himself.
As rapidly as possible. We, all together, we defeated and took over 100% of the ISIS caliphate. Everybody said that was going to be an impossible thing to do. I did it, and I did it quickly because we have a great military now.
I did it quickly.
When I took over our military, we didn't have ammunition. I was told by a top general, maybe the top of them all, sir, I'm sorry, sir, we don't have ammunition. I said, I'll never let another president have that happen to him or her. We didn't have ammunition. Now we've captured ISIS. We've done what we've done. We had 50 soldiers in the area you're talking about. And I said, we want to bring our...
So first off, I want to thank Barack Obama for getting rid of all the ammunition that the military was supposed to have. Pretty stunning stuff that they've been able to keep this under their hat for this long, that there's been no ammunition. I like the idea of like a general, maybe the top general. Maybe I don't know who the top general is. Maybe it could be a top general.
I like how he remembers not to just say I and then forgets again immediately.
It took 1 second. It took I did the effort. I did it. And so I'm not going to do it again.
Obama had us perfectly set up for a violent revolution that we thought was impossible.
Totally dropped the ball. The time to do this, the time to do this, the time to do it was when they had no ammunition. Now that window's closed.
Yeah, they'll never make that mistake again.
He said they would never make that mistake again. We're totally screwed.
We'll see about that.
Calling from a 720 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 727. Excuse me, 720. 720. 720. Okay. 306. 306.
Hey, Sam, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Hey there. Jeff from Regina calling. How are you doing today?
Wait, who's this?
Jeff from Regina.
Jeff from Regina. What's on your mind?
I was just calling. I'm calling from the picket line. Me and my union have been on strike for, 4 days now?
Wow, what union are you part of?
Sorry, what's that, Sam?
What union do you belong to?
It's Unifor, local S1. It's our Yeah, our local is from the provincial telephone company here. Basically, just want to call in, give an update. I guess maybe that anybody cares that much, but
no, I want to hear it. Let's hear it.
We've been on strike for 4 days. Our executive and stuff has been coming out. Our telephone company is owned by the government.
All right, just to be clear, Regina is the capital of Saskatchewan, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a provincial telephone company. We service the whole province. We're government owned. And basically what's been happening, like our executive and stuff has been coming out and kind of supporting the picketers and stuff like that. And really the whole holdup is with the government. And it's very frustrating. They gave themselves a 2.3% raise this year. But really they're offering us 0% for the next 2 years and then 1% after that. And our premier just left the province, went to Japan on a trade mission right while this is going on. So it's a pretty frustrating situation.
I bet. Sounds like it. So how does it work with you guys? Do you guys have like a strike fund? When does that kick in?
We do have a strike fund. We get paid. We have to do 20 hours of picketing every week, and then we get paid a stipend or whatever. So, we're part of a fairly large union. I mean, we've got 5,000 workers right now that are out on strike.
Wow.
But the Unifor union is Canada-wide, so they've got, I think, over 300,000 members. So yeah, it's a large union. I haven't heard any concerns about a strike fund running out or anything like that. So I mean, it's good in that, and it's also is what it is. I'd rather be at work making my paycheck, but it'll help us get by, I guess.
How can people support you up in Saskatchewan?
I don't know. I guess mainly if people want to, if you got people on Twitter, I guess I'm putting most of it on Scott Moe. That's our premier. He's the one that's really seems to be holding things up. People want to tweet at him. His Twitter handle is @Premier Scott Moe. Just say, get back to the table. Let's make a deal. Yeah, that's about it. Other than that, there's not much probably people out there can do for us up in Saskatchewan here.
Well, if you're in Saskatchewan, where are you guys located? Maybe people bring you some pizzas.
I'm in Regina. I am right on the corner of Gordon Road and what is it? I think it's Harbor Landing Drive. It's right by the co-op's right on the corner here. I don't know if I can be any more specific than that.
All right. How long are you going to be out there?
If anybody else from Regina. What's that?
How long are you going to be out there?
I'll be out here. It's 4-hour shifts, so I'll be out here till 1 o'clock, and then we'll have another crew showing up, and keep it rotating. So
you guys are going to need lunch. You guys are going to need lunch. Let's get a pizza out there.
Maybe.
You're not lactose intolerant or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be great, honestly.
All right, great.
Awesome. But yeah, anyways, thanks a lot, Sam. Thanks for the platform, helping get the word out there. I really love your guys' program.
Thanks.
And just thanks for all the support.
Good luck.
All right.
There you go, folks. Somebody's up in Regina, Saskatchewan. Send a pizza down to that corner. They'll appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, you could send like sandwiches too if you want, I guess. But pizza, everybody loves pizza. Calling from a 704 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 704? 704? 704? It's weird. Calling from a 484 area code.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Who's this?
Can I be anonymous? Would that be okay?
Sure. Where are you from? Or do you want to be anonymous about that too?
If I could. It's nothing.
Okay.
It's not like anything major. Just
right.
I obviously I can't get into why. I was calling because I have a little bit of knowledge on the situation in northern Syria, and you did make one mistake earlier in the analysis of the situation when you're talking about how the prisoners are held.
Okay.
So, to clarify, when they say the Kurds, it's more complicated than that. Over there's a lot of Kurds involved, but there's Arabs and there's actually even some Turks. And there's a lot of people actually from other countries who are there as well. And there's a shitload, there's a bunch of contractors, like from U.S., UK, lots of different parts of the West. But
who are paying the contractors? Is it the U.S. paying them, or different entities paying the contractors?
Yeah, they're usually Pentagon contractors. That's where most of the money comes from. Basically, like, a lot of them are like either ex-cops or, have been like in some form of military service at some point.
Right.
And then it's just like it pays a lot better if you get into that, and you have like a lot more freedom. It's more dangerous in some ways because you can
you can be left alone. Yeah, no, I remember this from the Iraq War. There was a lot of contractors. They had a lot more latitude, but there was also times where it's like, oh, you guys got surrounded. We don't have anybody to send to get you.
Yeah. I lost a couple of friends that way one time. Technically, there are no foreign Western powers. Like the United States has no control over any prisoners in that area. Okay, so that would all be under the Syrian forces or the Kurdish forces, right?
Right.
So there's a democratic, like, Syrian federation, okay, that involves a lot of Kurds, and then you have like the People's Protection Unit, which is, they're Kurdish nationalists. They want to see Kurdistan formed, right? So they effectively, probably with the U.S. pulling out, are going to be the ones that have control over all the prisoners. Now, when you talk about these guys releasing them, I don't think they would release them. I think they would just start executing them en masse. There's no way those guys, the ones that I know, are going to feel comfortable just saying, we're going to let...
right. These guys who we captured and we were fighting against and trying to kill 3 months ago, we're not going to let them go because they're going to go get armed again and they're going to come back and fight us.
It's difficult to convince them to not just shoot them in the head to begin with. Put it that way.
Okay.
Like they don't like the idea that they even have to put them in prisons. That's like a testy subject. I don't want to get into like all the details of everything that goes down over there and whatever. But I think that the thing that's like difficult to understand is like there's a lot of different interests going on here. This is pretty much the way I look at it. I think like, yeah, okay, it's possible. Sure, he has some business deals with Turkey because of his real estate situation in Istanbul, and then heard your earlier callers like, more instability, higher oil prices is going to be good for the U.S. And from a perspective of political economy, though, that's pretty much always the case for all oil-producing nations, and its ability in the Middle East has been beneficial. But I think that's kind of, I think that the issue with that is, you've seen by the number of people that have resigned, the situation there could potentially turn into like a serious bloodbath where like more people end up dying than died in Iraq. Just it could get way worse. And I think the major issue they're dealing with is the idea of a formation of Kurdistan, right, or of any free state in that area that would be democratic, isn't in Turkey's interest, isn't in Israel's interest, because it's not in the U.S.'s interest, isn't in Russia's interest, isn't in Iran's interest. So they're really surrounded by enemies on all sides. The Kurds don't really have any real friends in that area. And now with this occurring, even though they're still going to have contractors working with the Kurds, I guarantee it, they're still going to be sending them a bit of aid because, I don't want to get into that. But they're basically surrounded on all sides. And I just whatever's going to happen there going forward, it's been inevitable, is going to probably involve like a lot of people dying. pretty much no way out of it. And as far as those prisoners go, when I hear people saying like they're just gonna let them go loose, you gotta understand these people are really dedicated to their cause, and they would not just say, oh, we're gonna allow ISIS to reform. I'm pretty sure they would execute every single person in those prisons before they would allow somebody to go out and reconstitute ISIS. That's just, I just think that's very detached from the reality on the ground, in my personal experience.
Well, I mean, fair enough. I mean, people have to, obviously take this with a grain of salt. You're anonymous. It sounds like you, and so people can make their own assessment about this story. But what you're saying, I mean, it did occur to me, the idea that they would release 10,000 prisoners would be at a time where they feel like they have to wage a war against Turkey, seems to me to be hard to imagine. I would be very concerned that those people would reconstitute and fight me again. And which is not.
Where are you going to release them?
Right.
Where are you going to take them to release them? Like, you got to think. Think about it practically, okay? You've got a Sunni, like a Wahhabi extremist, okay, who like thinks that your ethnic group should be basically extinguished. You've captured them to a bloody war where you've been killing people they knew, they've been killing people you knew. Where are you going to put them? Are you just going to like take them out in a pickup truck in the desert and say walk that way? It's just put a bullet in the back of their head. It doesn't make any sense. Like I don't know. Like I don't know what's going to stop that from happening. But it's like I think a lot of this, the whole idea of like releasing the prisoners, I don't even understand how that would work practically.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, this might be outside of your your purview, and I get the sense that you had some firsthand experience, obviously, in this region. I mean, I can imagine under what context it would be, and I get what you're saying in terms of the idea that a successful semi-autonomous or autonomous state in what is now northern Syria, and it sounds like it's going to be occupied by Turkey. Like Turkey would come in and basically annex this part of this part of Syria. But I understand the idea that it's not in the interests of Turkey or Iran or anybody to have an autonomous region there. But I still don't understand what Trump, I don't think, let's put it this way. The national security apparatus of this country, they may not necessarily see the value of an autonomous state there, but they definitely seem to feel like the price that we're going to pay insofar as, looking to exploit other people to fight these type of conflicts is going to be diminished. I mean, certainly the national security apparatus of this country seems to be pretty upset about it. What else would be? I mean, I understand the lack of compulsion to sort of create an autonomous state, but I'm just not clear on why Trump is acting in this way. Like, I don't understand what makes him decide to do this now, if not some amount of personal benefit?
I think one thing to consider, number one, if you work, and I think if you ask anybody who's been involved in any activities of like all the interests that are working over there, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like none of it really makes that much sense. From like the ground level all the way up. That's why so many people keep resigning, because it doesn't really, like, I get what you're saying. You're looking for like the logical progression, but it's not really there. And I mean, I think everybody on pretty much every level, whether you're looking at like the State Department officials that have resigned, like McGurk, who was he was kind of like a soup. He was like special envoy for defeating ISIS or whatever. This guy is a tool, okay? Like I don't want to get into like that, could take forever, but this guy's basically a tool, right? Even he resigned after a certain point because he didn't understand what was going on. And he's released a lot now where he's just pretending like, oh yeah, Trump, I have no idea what he's talking about, blah, blah, blah. But when they initially had the strategy to go in, right, they were saying, okay, we're going to form an alliance with the YPG, and then they were always trying to say, like, oh, we support you and encourage the brave people and blah, blah, blah. But the question always came up, okay, so are we going to support the formation of Kurdistan? Then, that question just doesn't get answered. It gets kicked down the road. Okay, we got more important work to do to worry about that right now. ISIS is the threat right now. And then, when everything's said and done, they're just like, well, we can't continue to support them because eventually that leads to Kurdistan, you would think, if, you're actually going to maintain support for the Kurds. So let's just dump them, let's get out. And I don't think there's I think a lot of times, because we're sort of taught that like people in power are smarter than us or are more competent than us. That hasn't been my personal experience. And I mean, obviously you document every day how that's not really the case. Like, I think they're just doing something really stupid.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of logic behind it. I don't think it makes sense. It's just kind of, they're not able to figure out a solution because there is no solution, because what we're watching is fundamentally everything going on over there, and you can ask anybody, it all comes from the Sykes-Picot Treaty. If the Sykes-Picot Treaty had never existed, if those countries had never been partitioned in the way that they were, this wouldn't have happened. But because the British and the French established that dominion over the Middle East, these conflicts are basically inevitable.
Well, I mean, so much of the problems that we have in this world are, I think, it's hard to do a counterfactual, but one can imagine if we had, less imperialism starting in like the early 1800s in the world, you get the sense that a lot of this stuff probably could have worked out in a lot better situation. But all right, let me ask you this. This is and maybe you know nothing about this, but since we have you on the line, there was a report from someone who worked at CENTCOM. She was I just get there. Hold on one second. Here it is. A CENTCOM analyst, Patricia Rivalgi. She was a red team analyst and intelligence planner at U.S. Central Command. You would have a better sense maybe of what that is than I would. She wrote a piece for the Daily Beast.
Where you have like a position and your opinion matters. It's really like there's not. They just kind of all their positions pretty much overlap. They just like, this person is smart. They went to college. You have to listen to them because they have authority. That's basically what it means.
She said that there's a lot of very, very pro-Trump people in the military these days. And I've read speculation that one of the reasons why Mattis was so, treating such kid gloves with Trump when he left the administration was that there is some concern that, like, with the military is so pro-Trump. What's your sense of that?
All right. So right now, I couldn't tell you, like, active duty, U.S. combatants, or I don't know. I'll just put it this way. The reason you get into that profession a lot of the time is because of toxic masculinity. Like, keep it real. Right. So, yeah, I mean, but it's more complicated than that. Like, yeah, there's a lot of people who support Trump for those kind of reasons, but so I'm like in the regular workforce. I'm working construction. Once those guys get out and they start reassessing things, and you're a little more out of the chain of command, and you're able to talk to more people, and you're in a different environment. I mean, people can change up very quickly.
Right.
And I think, too, it's like there's a lot of smart people over there. There has to be, there's a lot of really competent people who make, like, good decisions. That's usually not the people that are valued to go up the chain a lot of the time, because it's just like in any company, like,
right,
if you're a yes man, like, you're going to do better.
Yep.
So I think, like, and he encourages that, but that has, like, operational consequences. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, because you do need people to know what they're doing. Like, as much technology as the U.S. has and as much money, like, with the situation there, I mean, stuff was getting really, people had to get really creative there, and it was an extremely volatile, dangerous environment, and you were under a mandate where you had to keep U.S. casualties at absolutely zero. I mean, the consequence for people finding out that Americans were in danger, Americans were in combat in Iraq at that time was probably like they prioritized that over actually losing a life. Like they cared more about the imagery around it.
Right.
And you had to have really creative people who were very competent at their jobs, executing that well. More and more and more, as it's apparent that people keep jumping out who have any level of competency or understand the situation. Once again, I'm not trying to say that these people's politics are good or whatever. I'm not saying that. It's just they're given a job to do,
right,
and some people do it better than others. That creates a more volatile situation, because if they're going to now say, all right, we're going to step back and allow this to go where it goes, it's only going to get bloodier. And I think, okay, so you can say, okay, there's pro-Trump sentiment, and then that's what they're scared of. People follow orders, man. They do what they're told. I don't care. If you're there and you're in that situation, right now, I'm sure there's guys who don't want to leave, who are okay, I guess I got to go. You just do what you're told. It's a very top-down situation. Mattis, I think, there's been a lot of talk about him and how great he is, and people look up to him or whatever. At the end of the day, the guy's a politician.
Right.
You don't get that rank without being a politician. It's just of any business or
well,
anything else.
that's why I think that there was conjecture that he was worried about his constituency, and he's not.
He doesn't have a popular constituency. He has a corporate constituency. I mean, all of his power comes from the top. Nobody elected him to anything.
Right.
He's a good speaker. I mean, he seems pretty well read. He seems pretty intelligent. He is good at his job.
Well,
but I mean, he doesn't.
Listen,
I don't see any reason why he should.
We got to wrap up here, but I appreciate you calling in. Call in again.
Wait, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Well, kind of. I had two questions.
Well, it's 8:40. I mean, it's 2:40, and I got to do some recordings. So.
Okay, so we had David Graeber on a while back to talk about his trip to Rojava specifically and the sort of libertarian socialist experiment going on there. To what degree is that still a thing? And to what degree is the whole region more focused around creating sort of a more traditionally nationalist ethno-state?
That was one of the first things that had to be dismantled in order for U.S. terms to be fulfilled. So that's the worst case scenario, but there's no chance of that expanding much farther. I mean, I don't know where the hell it is right now. I doubt it exists in much form whatsoever. There's not enough controllable resource wealth for that to go too much past that. I mean, people who believe that are in probably more danger than anyone else. But, any hope that was going to be like Barcelona in the 30s, it might end up being Barcelona in the 30s and that they get horribly defeated. But I think that's been way overblown personally.
All right. Well, thanks for the call. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Fascinating stuff. Folks, I'm sorry. We're out of time. We will have shows tomorrow and on Thursday and on Friday. But for those of you who are Jewish and are celebrating Yom Kippur, I'll give you one of these. I will wish you a Happy New Year, a Yom Tov, L'Shana Tova, and say bye-bye.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bulb. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. to year while I shifted in and out of gear, waiting for my moment to happen. I don't know how